how to basically set up the sheet view. So what I'm going to have is that I'm going to test out, I'm going to copy a project, okay, just so that I don't ruin the original project. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm just going to copy a project that I did recently just to do some testing and stuff like that. It turns out to be working pretty well, especially if you want to do a lot of this, you know, kind of like almost like a Revit kind of environment. I'm pretty sure that once you use Revit, you say, oh, I'll never go back to AutoCAD. But sometimes you can enhance your AutoCAD ability using this sort of a technique. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy to a project. This is a project, so I won't ruin whatever is inside this project. Okay. Now, before I do anything, I'm going to say, you know, inside the Sheetset Manager, I'm just going to start a project anyways. Inside Sheetset Manager, I'm just going to go double click. Okay, it should pop up the Sheetset Manager. Okay, within the Sheetset Manager, when you go right click and go to Properties, right? And when you scroll all the way down, you notice that there is a lot of this issue here, notes, etc. Those are actually meant for if you ever work on a project. Let's say I'm going to just open up a context plan, right? If you ever want to put in anything notes related, let's say I'm going to go to the architectural, imperial, let's say documentation. And what you can do is that you can go into the miscellaneous symbol, right? In here, you notice that there is a general note. When I click on this, sure, why not? Just place it in there. You notice that, you know, this information controls through this right here, okay? You can just say, you know, I don't care, okay? If you hit regenerate, you see that I don't care just basically pops into the thing. So that also relates to the parking notes as well. So if you click on this and just paste it here, you notice that there's a parking bylaw. If you say that this is in Vancouver or Richmond, then all you have to do is just say, okay, this is city of, I think, Burnaby. And then you can say this is BC 2012. And then city of Burnaby parking bylaw. Okay, so what does is that it enhances kind of that information. So if you are working in certain jurisdiction, that general notes will basically falls into that kind of a system. Okay, so yeah, so this is supposed to help you a little bit. So if you ever entered in a general notes from this tool palette, it allows you to basically control through using Sheetset Manager. All right, now get to the meat of the topic for today. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to open up my detail, right? Okay, so in here, you notice that this detail has all this thing attached to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the process how to create that first. I'm going to save this as, okay, I'm going to save a drawing, and I'm just going to call this test, okay, just so that I'm going to give you guys a test how to do that. So I'm going to remove it. Okay, just remove this and remove this so you guys don't see anything. The first thing you want to do is that when you start up any detail, okay, what you have is that you have this kind of a scenario. Okay, you starting out the details and then you just draw around your building. The first thing you want to do is that you want to create what's known as the view. Okay, this could be in paper space. Oh, actually not paper space. It has to be in model space. Okay, you could do it in a sheet. Okay, where you know, like you could have like a detailer that details everything in here. Okay, and then all you have to do is just create what's known as the view. So all you have to do is just click on V for view. Okay, right now I have all this detail set up. I'm just going to delete all of this so that I could show you guys the process itself. Okay, I'm going to go V again. The next thing you want to do is that when you click on New, click on Define Window. Okay, let's say this is my window right here. The next thing you want to do is that save later snapshot of view. Always check it off. Okay, that's the first thing you have to do is check this off. And this one I'm going to call this detail 1. 01. Make sure you put in like 01. Let's say you have like 100 details. Make sure you put in 001, right? Because what happens that when you put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 11 is going to be stuck in between 1. Okay, so when you look at the list, you're going to say, 1, 11, or 1, 10, 11, blah, blah, blah. So just keep in mind, if you have to organize this, basically just add that number. Okay, define that view. Now your detail is becoming that. You repeat the process. Okay, I'm going to go detail 2. Again, I'm just going to say define window. That's my detail number 2. Okay, and then go next one. I'm just going to say detail 3, 03, and define window. And make sure that thing's turned off, and then say okay. And then you go to new one again. Make sure the detail 4. Okay, just keep trying this over and over again until you get what you want. Okay, so that's the first step you're going to do. The next thing you're going to do is that you're going to save. Okay, I'm going to save the drawing. And then now the next thing you want to do is that you want to click on over to the model view. Okay, the model view is where the sheet set manager is going to be kept. Since I'm saving under a sheet, then you can go into the sheet under the detail. You notice that there's a one called test, and it will basically have this new detail right here. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new sheet. Okay, call it a 5.03, and call this detail plan. Okay, just create that. I'm going to put that in. The next thing you want to do is that you have that detail, you want to put it on a sheet. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that place it on sheet. Before you do that, I forgot to tell you is that you have to add scale. Okay, if you don't add scale, well, let's see what's going to happen. What's going to happen is that it's going to, oh, okay, good. This one has scale. What typically happens is that if it doesn't have scale, make sure you add scale first. Okay, that's a very important thing, because if it doesn't have a scale, what it does is that it basically pick 1-to-1 as your only scale. Okay, right now it's creating that XREF. Okay, this is not good. So I have to undo what I did. So before you do anything, let us say you have no scale. Always add the scale that you think you're going to use. Let's say I'm going to go 3, and then I'm going to go 6. Okay. And then what you're going to do is place it on a sheet. And what it does is that when you right-click on it, you're able to select what scale you want to put in. So this is like that. Just plunk it in there and say OK. Okay, that's your detail 1. So how you control this is that right now, once you put that in there, it's going to create one right here, detail sheet view. It's called detail 1. Here, what you can do is that you can say rename and renumber, okay? And say this one is 1 or 01, or I'm just going to put 1. And I'm just going to say plan detail at exterior wall. Okay. And what happens is that basically ties in it with everything. Now, the nicest thing about this is that if your scale ever change, okay, let's say I want to do a 3, you see that this thing also changed with it. Okay, that's the simple thing. We're going to put it back to the way it was. And that's it. Now, the next thing you want to do is that you want to place it in. You once you repeat the step over and over again, it may be tedious at first, but the reason why you want this sort of like set this up like this is later on you can use this to generate kind of like your detail. All right. Sorry, Dan. I'm on a meeting, but I'll get back to you. All right. It's going to be an hour, but yeah. All right. Sorry about that. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, I got people asking questions. Sorry. Okay. So once you have that in, I'm just gonna put it in. Place a sheet. Okay. You can just keep placing in. All right. Just place it on a sheet. Nicest thing about this is that you don't have to worry about the XREF. It will just XREF everything for you. okay? Because right now what happened is that when you place it on a sheet, it basically creates this sheets, this xref, and then what it does is that it xref basically based on relative path. Okay, that's the nicest thing about that. And then when you go in here, you can just go in here, rename and renumber, just call this 2, plan detail, and then go next, 3, plan detail, and then go to next, plan detail. Okay. And what happens is that when you have that, okay, you could save. Okay, I'm going to save that. Now, the next thing you want to do is that you want to go to a plan. Okay, here I have a plan. Right now, I already have, let's put it on a site plan because the floor plan already have that information. So let's say, for example, you want to do like a detail callout in your building. Okay, let's say it can be in an XREF as well. Okay, that's the nicest thing. So what you're going to do is that you're going to just open up the XREF. Oh, it's already in there. You notice that it's right in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it on directly on the sheet itself. Okay, so here, if you want to put in a detail callout now, so the first thing we do is that I'm going to go to Sheet View, and right here, there's one right here, and place a callout block. Okay, and what I'm going to do is that you have a variations of what you want to choose. Okay, this has a built-in detail and an elevation section and etc. So if you're doing a view for section, you're doing a view for elevation and stuff like that, then you choose one of this block right here. Okay, since this is a detail, I'm going to choose this. Okay, and then here I'm just going to place it in there. Notice that it basically say, okay, that's the number. Okay, and then what you're going to do with that is, let's see, I'm going to rotate it somewhere right there. Okay. Nicest thing about this is that once you place it in there, you can renumber this. Okay, let's say for example my drawing list change, and I have to renumber this. Okay, let's say I want to say this is going to be A. Okay, and when you regenerate, you see that number also change. And when you go in here, renumber, let's say this is going to be 1A. That also renumber automatically. Okay, this does it globally. Okay, you can just place whatever details you want. Let's say I'm going to place this. Again, I'm just going to use the same one. Okay. You can say, okay, that detail is somewhere right there. Okay. You notice that it keeps track of it. So whenever you put in the 2, it will always remember what sheet that is placed on. Now, you notice that this is like, this is similar to Revit. Exactly. Okay. So this sort of information that, a lot of users, they assume that, this is not useful. This is very useful, especially if you're doing a detail and you want to call out numbers and you want to reorganize. This will help you tremendously, especially if you are doing a lot of massive project and you want to know what details goes what. This will manage that for you and allows you to basically set what page number, etc. And then all of this corresponding details is going to help you kind of alleviate that problem. It's just a quick rundown right now. Do you guys have any question at the moment or not really? All right, I'm going to repeat the steps so that you guys can kind of follow through. The first thing I would do is that whenever you start, let's say you have a detail, it could be in a sheet view or it could be an element view, doesn't matter. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is that you create, when you open up a detail sheet, is that you want to create what's known as the view, correct? So you click on V for view, click on next, okay, and you say detail 05, make sure this is turned off, click on this and say, this is my detail right here, number 5, okay. And when you hit OK, that becomes 05. Next thing you do is that when you save, okay, go back to sheet where you want to place it, right? Let's say I'm assuming that this is the sheet I want to place it in. Next thing you want to do is that you want to basically refresh this so you get the number 5, and you click on paste on the detail view. Okay, I'm just going to place it there. Say OK. And then now you go back into the sheet view tab, go back here, renumber, and say 5, plan detail. Call it whatever you want. Say OK. And then next thing you want to do is that if you want to go back to the site plan, you want to place in your detail, all you have to do is that you go to sheet view, right click, place a callout block, and then say this is my detail right there. Okay, it automatically configured to that. That's number 5. Okay, how cool is that? Pretty cool, right? So yeah, do you guys have any question? This is going to be like very simple. Let's do one like for elevation as well. So let's say, for example, you have an elevation. Okay, let's say this is your simple elevation. The first thing I would do is that when you go V, you will want to create one for the north elevation, similar. Okay, north elevation. I typically do not create that, and then I'm saying I want it from this particular corner, say OK, okay, and you do the same thing, say go east elevation, check that off. Okay, the reason why I prefer to check it off is because what happens is that if you save a snapshot and then later on you freeze the layer, what happens is that snapshot would just override whatever you did previously, and then you constantly have to go back and forth and constantly freezing the layer. So always check it off so that it doesn't bother you that way whenever you create that view. It's very annoying because every time when you go V, it always on by default. Sometimes I don't like that, but there's not that much you can do. Okay, so what you're going to do is that make sure you check it off. And this is, I believe, is south elevation. And finally, you have west elevation. Check it off. Okay, simple stuff like that. And what happens is that just save it. Okay. Now what you can do is that within the sheet, I'm going to get rid of this. Most of the time I like to get rid of this, okay, because I know that this is all manually done, but most of the time you try not to do it manually. You could do it manually, but you lose that ability to kind of, generate the elevation mark, okay? Okay, I'm going to say 1.8. Place it on sheet. And finally, just place it on sheet. Okay, let's assume that I'm not going to, you know how to organize this stuff, so I'm just basically going to place it on sheet. So the next thing I want to do is that you go to sheet view, you notice that there's an elevation, and then you can say, okay, rename and renumber, and saying that, well, this is going to be 1. This is going to be east elevation. Just do it properly. Go next. 2 is going to be north elevation. 3 south elevation. And finally 4 west elevation. Okay, so once you have that in, I'm just going to go regenerate. Okay, it basically gives you that information. I'm going to save it. Next thing you want to do is that when you go back to plan, okay, let's say main floor plan. Okay, so next thing you want to do is that you could place it on the sheet itself, but I typically like to put it inside this view right there. And what you can do now is that you're going to go back to sheet view, saying that this is my and place a annotation, say this is the exterior. Okay. Okay, I'll probably have to change to a different. Let's say you made a mistake. You want the number, then you can always erase it and go back and say place a callout block. Just pick the one that you think it's good. Okay. Oh, that looks good. Okay, so this is east elevation. So east is going to be right there. So you can just say, okay, I'm going to place it right there. And then next thing you want to do is that you want to say north elevation, placed, exterior, place it in there. Okay. Oh, actually north is the other side. Sorry. And then you can just rotate it. Oopsies. Again, you do south again, placed. Okay, good. And then west elevation. That one. Okay. Okay. Now you have it. So let's say I'm going to change my page size or page number. Okay. I'm just going to go rename. It's going to be 200. Okay. All that sheet number changes. And if you want to reorder this, let's say this is number 2. This is number 1. And then this one is number 3. And this one's number 4. Okay. So once you reorder that, you notice that all that information becomes trickled down and change the numbering system. Okay, how cool is that? Pretty good, right? So yeah, this is like 30 minutes of stuff that you know you can do inside. If you want to take one step further, let's say section as well. Okay, again, it's the same idea, right? Say I have a section. Okay, let's say this is my section. Go to model. Again, you can say this is section 1, section AA, or section BB, or whatever, and then section AA. The find window, let's say I want it to be that. And hit OK. And then V, section BB, find window. Okay, and then section CC. Okay, there we go. You have section there. What it is, I'm going to save it again. To go back in here and just get rid of all this stuff since this is done by somebody else, right? And what you can do is that right now you have a section. Okay, you go to the section. Let's say this is my section right there, and then just go place it on sheet. And what you're going to do is just wait, okay, until it does its stuff, and then say, okay, I want that to be 1/8. Place it. One-eighth. And then same thing here, just place it on sheet. So you can imagine that when you're doing working drawings, DP drawings, etc., this sort of thing, when you create the views and stick it on here in your Sheetset Manager, what it does is that it allows the Sheetset to basically manage all your numbering system. Okay, there you go. And then rename and renumber. Just say this is number 1. Rename 2, 3, and say OK. When you regenerate, there you go. Those are information. And now we can do is that you can go back to the floor plan. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to open up that XREF again. And the next thing you want to do is that if you know your section where your 8A is going to be, then you can say, okay, this is my section. Just say place a callout. Placeholder section, you can say, okay, I'm going to choose one. I'm just going to experiment and see what that is. Maybe that's not too good. Okay, so let's try another one. Place a callout. Let's say it could be, I'm going to try that one. Oh, that's no good. So you experiment, right, until you find what you want. Okay, let's say section number 4. Does this look good? Oh yeah, this looks good. So let's explode that. Oh yeah, sometimes it doesn't recognize it. I don't know why. Yeah, this one I think it's already hooped, so I'm gonna get rid of that. I may have to configure some of them. Some of them I have not tested out why the placeholder didn't work. But most of the time, if you say I want a detail and just place it in there, you notice that it will recognize the value. Okay. So that's basically kind of like the steps of how you create a view inside your thing, you place it on a sheet, right? And you renumber it in here. And what happens is that if you want to get the callout value out of this, you just basically place a callout and it just place whatever you need in there. Well, maybe we should try that. Yeah, it's only get one value. Maybe I should use the other one. Place a callout. There we go. That's a much better one. And I think it's somewhere here. Okay. And you kind of get the idea of how to do this, so I won't go too far. Okay, hopefully I show you guys 6 people. I'm kind of disappointed that there should be more people in this because this is like large AutoCAD groups. They should know how this works because once I'm gone, that's it. You guys are basically the person that is going to take over this sort of a thing. So hopefully you find a value in this. I find this to be very, very useful, especially when you're doing details. You want to coordinate all the numbering system, because the thing is that sometimes if you have to renumber, you don't have to go back and keep track of this thing because Sheetset Manager will keep track of that detail value for you. And it has a lot of power. I mean, I wish people could learn a lot of this information. Once you learn it, you can manage a lot of the project based on this sort of a very small principle. Okay, and it could help you tremendously, especially when you're on a tight deadline, you have to change certain pages. This will automatically update itself. Okay. All right, that's pretty much it for today. If you have any question or concern or anything, just let me know.